P-R-I-D-E, show World Pride.
Celebrating the diversity and inclusion of New York's very own, because we are New York's very own.
We continue to bring our community out.
World Pride events right here, including the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. We've celebrated all month long. Now join us as we bring you the best of New York City Pride in a Pix 11 Social Media Center special.
Hey everybody, happy Sunday and happy Pride. We thank you so much for joining us here on this Facebook Live. I'm Dan Manarino.
Yes, glad to have you here, everyone. I'm Betty Nguyen. Okay, we have a bunch of features for you today, dedicated entirely to Pride Month celebrations right here in NYC.
Yeah, you know, throughout the month of June, the team here at Pix 11 explored some amazing stories focused really on the LGBTQ communities and events. So we handpicked some of our favorites to share with you as we celebrate on this Pride Sunday.
It's some really good stuff. So in our first story, Ayanna Harry, she visits local places of worship that have become safe spaces for LGBTQ members and has really helped them reconnect with their faith.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
An oasis on 2nd Avenue. This is Middle Collegiate Church, where diverse voices sing together and diverse New Yorkers have found a home.
I hadn't heard that God loved me as a queer person before I came in these doors.
We're working on a love revolution, and we want everyone to join it.
Reverend Jacqueline Lewis leads the faith community here. Middle Church is both historic and progressive.
Middle Church is having an impact in the world. Thank you, God.
Established in the 1620s, Middle Church found a new purpose in the 1980s as crisis rocked the LGBT residents here in the Lower East Side.
There were lots of people living and dying from HIV/AIDS.
Middle Church did what many others would not. They performed funerals for New Yorkers who died with AIDS.
That's the beginning of our progression around LGBT justice.
This is me.
30 years later, and Middle Church remains on the forefront, advocating for queer New Yorkers.
And you can use the Bible to make LGBTQ people think that they are an abomination and not of God, and that is simply not true.
Middle has activated a light in me that I already knew was there, but I just needed to be confirmed.
As a gay Christian, this was the first church where Matthew Johnson Harris felt he could just be himself. Graham Bridgman is the first openly transgender deacon.
And it was really amazing. Getting to stand in front of people and go to scripture and then bring back a word for them.
This June, Middle Church is boldly celebrating Pride. Yesterday's service was filled with personal testimonies.
We hide in straight spaces because they are often not safe for queer people.
And they're not the only house of worship embracing Pride. At Central Synagogue in Midtown, sections of the AIDS memorial quilt are on display. They're even planning a Pride Shabbat dinner.
Everyone has the right to find love and to enjoy Jewish community.
More conservative faiths like the Catholic Church are also building better bonds with the LGBTQ community. Father James Martin is a Jesuit priest.
I think things are softening for LGBT Catholics. In New York, for example, I think it's very strong. LGBT Catholics feel welcome in the church. In other dioceses and cities, it's not so strong.
Back at Middle Collegiate Church, Pride isn't just for the month of June. It's fundamental to who they are.
So why not interpret through the lens of love? That's what Jesus did, and if it's good enough for Jesus, it should be good enough for the whole church.
Ayanna Harry, Pix 11 News.
So thanks to Ayanna Harry for reporting. It's really such an important story to see about churches really opening their doors now, because I think for so long people felt like they couldn't go to church or felt ostracized from going.
So very true. You see the progress. All right, so we want to give a big thank you to Middle Collegiate Church and Central Synagogue for sharing their message of hope and love with us.
All right, so this next story is certainly a favorite of mine, not just because I was the one who actually reported it, but I did have the pleasure of sitting down with City Council Speaker Cory Johnson at the famous Stonewall Inn downtown to talk about his personal journey of love, his hardships, and turning those hurdles into acceptance.
He's known to bust a move and rock a jump split during city parades. If you didn't know, City Council Speaker Cory Johnson is openly gay and the only HIV-positive elected official in New York who, like so many, is looking forward to celebrating Pride weekend.
I think the city's going to come alive. It's World Pride, which is the first time World Pride has been hosted in the United States of America.
Cory sat down with me inside the historic Stonewall Inn, where 50 years ago the flame was lit for the modern LGBT civil rights movement in America.
Many of them were transgender women of color. Many of them were people that had been marginalized and oppressed and harassed and targeted systemically by the police and by government for years and years and years.
It was that brave groundwork that inspired a 16-year-old high school football player from Boston to open up and come out.
And I grew depressed, despondent, and eventually suicidal. It was in 1999. Marriage equality didn't exist anywhere in the United States of America.
He says his parents were the easy part, immediately accepting him. Then came his grandfather.
He says, you can be gay, you just can never be a Republican or vote for a Republican, you're good in my book.
And eventually, his entire team.
Someone raised their hand and said, Cory, you're our friend, you're a good football player. That's really all that matters.
And did you feel a weight lifted off your shoulders?
It was like an anvil had been lifted off of me because I had, for years, felt so scared and fearful and like people were gonna find the secret out.
Fast forward a few years, Johnson dropped out of college and headed to the place that inspired him to come out, New York City. But
it's not easy to move here at 19 years old.
So he got a job at ABC Carpet as a salesman.
I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't great at it.
When at 22, he got news that would forever change his life.
Ended up finding out through a routine physical examination at my doctor that I was HIV positive, and about 2 weeks after I lost my job, and I then lost my health insurance. I spent basically 5 years self-medicating and covering up the shame and remorse and sadness.
Covering it up with what?
I was covering it up with alcohol, I was covering it up with cocaine. Just a couple of months after my 27th birthday, I was lucky enough to get sober.
He decided that would not define him.
Hi, my name is Cory Johnson.
In the years after, Cory became a community board member, a city councilman, and now speaker, looking to fight for all New Yorkers and the LGBTQ community. Just weeks ago, he called for the NYPD to apologize for what happened inside Stonewall.
The actions taken by the NYPD were wrong, plain and simple.
I thought it was very significant. And what we've seen over the last few years is a real targeting of the LGBT community, the transgender military ban, continued discrimination against gay couples and gay families across the country. And so there's still a huge amount of work to be done.
And so as the city approaches World Pride Day.
So it's celebrating, but it's also taking stock in the progress that we've still yet to make in our society, even in our city.
And Mr. Johnson gets ready for some more jumps. He's not shy or bashful about one more thing, looking for love.
So who is Prince Charming for Cory?
I want a husband. I want love. And I don't know, I have a Hinge profile. And for me, I want someone sweet and smart and kind and independent and someone who loves life.
That was quite the story. Very powerful and very honest.
And I think he really looks himself now as a role model for younger generations who are seeing and hearing his story and saying, okay, I too can come out and follow in his footsteps.
Absolutely. And as many of you are aware, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. The Stonewall Inn sparked a revolution of change that really allowed people to feel free of ridicule in a city that had been discriminating against gay people.
Here's Marvin Scott with more.
The Stonewall Inn was a sanctuary for the city's gay community, a safe haven for homosexuals, lesbians, drag queens, a place where they could be free of ridicule in a city that criminalized acts of homosexuality.
This was a refuge, it was a safe place, it was the only place we can go.
Mark Siegel was 18 years old in 1969, a newcomer to the city. He was gay and alone until he found Stonewall.
When you went into Stonewall, you could hold hands, you could kiss, and more importantly for an 18-year-old like me, you could dance.
Police made regular visits to Stonewall, owned by the mob and operating without a liquor license. But in the early hours of June 28, 1969, they arrived with a vengeance.
What made that night different than all others, which created the spark, when they came in, they burst in. When they came in, they slammed people up against the wall.
Things got out of hand when patrons said they had had enough and fought back. Someone threw a glass at a mirror.
No one knows what who threw what when. We were a crowd. It was spontaneous. It was a riot.
Police made 13 arrests as the chaos spilled out onto the streets, the crowd fighting back, with 15 police officers cowering for safety inside Stonewall.
We were all across here, across the street. The police were locked in the bar. We picked up whatever we could from that street. Stones, so you'll notice you'll see things in the street. That's what we did. Whatever was there, we reached for.
The riots became protests. The protests became a movement.
Absolutely made life easier. We walk on the shoulders of a lot of people who came before us, did a lot of hard work.
On the first anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, there were gay rights parades. A year later, gay rights groups were formed in almost every major city.
You can't make us go away!
The gay rights movement has made some major strides over the past 5 decades.
Gay legislation in many states and cities across the country to end discrimination, marriage equality, gays in the military.
Police were widely criticized for their actions that fateful night 50 years ago. This year, the gay community got an apology.
The actions and the laws were discriminatory and oppressive, and for that, I apologize.
President Obama memorialized the struggle for gay rights by designating the Stonewall National Monument, where the modern-day movement began.
And our thanks to Marvin Scott. I mean, 50 years since that, and that's really why World Pride is here in New York City this year.
Absolutely. And our own Kirsten Call returned to the landmark venue on Friday morning, in fact, to celebrate with New York.
With me now is Amit Paley. He's with the Trevor Project. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are one of the grand marshals in this year's parade. Talk about what that means and the positioning for the Trevor Project to be literally front and center as the parade march steps off.
It's incredibly exciting, and it's really important for us. We're the world's largest organization that does suicide prevention and crisis intervention for LGBTQ youth, and to be centering and focusing on LGBTQ young people who still have a lot of challenges in this country is really meaningful.
I know that you recently completed one of the largest ever surveys of LGBTQ youth, and even you were a little surprised by the findings, even though you're there on the front lines with their mental health issues.
Everyone wants to be accepted and loved, and if you're an LGBTQ young person and you live in a place where people say you're not good enough, you don't deserve love or respect, we're going to try to forcibly change who you are, that has an impact on how you think about yourself.
Fun fact time. Did you know that only 5 other cities have hosted World Pride, and now New York City will be the first American city to host such an amazing event?
Making history. So earlier this week, New York's very own Shirley Chan celebrated the opening ceremony for World Pride 2019 on the rainbow carpet at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Take a look.
Only 5 cities have ever hosted World Pride, and New York City becomes the first American city to ever do so. Of course, no one does it bigger or better than New York. World Pride kicking off with a benefit concert here at Barclays Center, and the stars walk the rainbow carpet. The stars are as bright as the rainbow carpet. A-listers like Billy Porter, the Tony and Grammy Award winner, dazzled in another one of his show-stopping outfits.
Pride is always a time when the community comes together. Right now, we need to be reminded of our strength in numbers, of our strength in unity.
Porter is one of many celebrities who participated in a benefit concert at Barclays Center. Proceeds go to several organizations that support and advocate for the LGBTQIA+ movement.
Opening ceremony is something that we are doing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event here at Barclays Center in Brooklyn to kick off World Pride.
No one does it like New York City Pride.
The host, Whoopi Goldberg. Headline performer was Cyndi Lauper.
I know that sometimes it's a little scary to think about how you'll be received when you come out. But just know that the greatest thing you can ever do is choose yourself.
I just came out this year as part of the LGBTQ community with my girlfriend, so for this to be one of the first big events since then is like a really monumental moment for me.
New York City was awarded World Pride this year in large part because June 2019 coincides with the 50th anniversary of the riots at the Stonewall Inn when police raided the bar. The uprising is considered the birth of the modern gay rights movement.
I am unbelievably grateful to be here tonight, to be an openly transgender Black woman
living my best life. I know that there are people who died for me to be able to have the right to stand here tonight.
And of course, Pride festivities culminate with the big Pride March on Sunday. They're expecting millions and millions of people this year. And just as there is an opening ceremony, there will also be a closing ceremony, 7 p.m. Sunday in Times Square. From Barclays Center, Shirley Chan, Pix 11 News.
All right, Shirley Chan always covering a red or rainbow carpet somewhere.
Some kind of color.
And there she is once again, so thanks to Shirley. So from Brooklyn, we head on up now to Greenwich Village to take a look at Julius's Bar. So some history for you. The oldest continually operating gay bar right here in New York City.
Yes, our Alicia Nieves went down to this small sip-in, which is located at the corner of West 10th and Waverly Place.
This small dive bar on the corner of West 10th Street and Waverly in Greenwich Village is the oldest continually operating gay bar in New York City. Julius has been open for more than a century and is still very popular.
I feel like it's community-based, I feel like it's relaxed, I feel like it's inclusive.
What this bar is today for many in the LGBTQ community is very different from what it once was.
So many bars were places of oppression, and today they have changed meaning over time.
In the 1960s, the bar had a practice of discriminating against openly gay people. Such discrimination was documented in this photo.
This was taken April 21st, 1966 by Village Voice photographer Fred McDara, and it captures when Dick Leitch announced, "We are homosexuals, we want to be served," and the bartender put his hand over the glass and said, "Nope, I'm sorry."
Many historians refer to the infamous Stonewall riots as the start of the equal rights movement for the LGBTQ community, but the sip-in at Julius happened 3 years before Stonewall.
People know maybe a little about Stonewall, there was a riot, and then gay liberation, right? But they don't know about the steps before that event. Was sort of a tipping point for the community.
From sip-ins here at Julius in 1966 to Stonewall in 69 to now, 2019, equal rights for those in the LGBT community have come a long way. Pride Month celebrates that history made and the history yet to be made for many in the LGBTQ communities. In Greenwich Village, Alicia Nieves, Pix 11 News.
So in just a few moments, that march about to kick off, and there's going to be some crazy outfits out there. So if you need some last-minute outfit ideas, our next story has what you need.
So true, and you better hurry because the march is about to start. But this retail space, let's tell you about it. It is the first of its kind in New York City. It showcases creations from local gender-neutral designers as well as big-name brand collaborations to really celebrate all things Pride.
Hi, how is everybody? Welcome. This is our version of the rainbow. We did it as a tie-dye to make it kind of fresh.
A fresh take on retail is what you'll find at the Fluid Project.
The cool thing about Fluid is, as a gender-free store, it is for the core transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming young people. It's not just, young queer people. It's all ages, all races, like all genders. It's everybody.
The timing for this venture seemed right for Rob Smith, CEO and founder of the Fluid Project.
I had been in retail for over 30 years, working for great companies like Nike and Levi's and Macy's and Victoria's Secret, and then I was looking for something more in life and quit my job, traveled around the world, and on that journey, the Fluid Project was born.
Since opening in March of 2018, this emporium has helped provide a marketplace for emerging designers.
We have an open house every Tuesday from 11 to 12 here where designers show up and bring their product. And it's a great opportunity for these young designers to showcase their product on Broadway in NoHo.
My brand is called One DNA. It's a gender-free brand that's produced here in New York.
For Travis Weaver, that open house created a new audience for his clothing line.
I personally met the owner, Rob Smith, and I showed him the line, and they invited me back to do a 2-week pop-up shop that has turned into a year and a half of selling our products here. I really wanted to focus on outerwear, so I created a line of jackets that have a drop shoulder, and they accommodate the shoulders for both man and female, and also someone who doesn't identify as being a cisgender.
And like Travis's line, many of the collections featured at the Fluid Project are created by local-based designers and manufactured in New York. However, larger brands are seeing the potential of this up-and-coming marketplace.
It's pretty exciting, the brands, especially the big brands that have come to us to work with us. So we've got exclusives from Fila and Champion and Levi's and Happy Socks and the Converse.
And of of course, there are plenty of offerings for Pride and World Pride.
We're the official manufacturer of World Pride product. Marsha P. Johnson, Power to the People. She was one of the original transgender activists during the Stonewall riots. Protect trans kids, resist. We're very much an activist group.
And although this may be a great spot to pick Pride gear now, it's also available to all throughout the year.
Sometimes I think people forget to support gay-owned and operated businesses. I think all year long we should support all minority-owned businesses.
So we know the march is starting soon. So many different types of representations along the route today. We wanted to leave you right now with a real heartfelt story from New York's bravest.
It's a good one. Last but not least is the annual FDNY Pride celebration. Now, Shirley Chan, she went down to Spring Street to speak with celebrated officials and local New Yorkers as they enjoyed the festivities. So let's take a look.
Left, right, left.
The Color Guard got the FDNY's 4th annual LGBTQ celebration started as the rainbow flag glistened in the late day sun, perched between 2 ladder trucks right outside the New York City Fire Museum on Spring Street in Soho.
This annual event has become a chance to celebrate a group in our workforce for their many accomplishments and for their brave work to protect New Yorkers.
Commissioner Daniel Nigro acknowledged FDNY members who are also members of the LGBTQ community. One of them, Lillian Bonsignor, Chief of EMS Operations and the highest ranking female in the department.
FDNY does a really good job of making sure that no matter who you are, no matter who you love, no matter what you do, you're part of the FDNY family. And that family is going to have a nice big party tonight.
Don't bring around a cloud to rain on my parade.
And get the party started they did, with entertainer Tim Moss, who served as MC. And with firefighters involved, you can always expect great food. Burgers, hot dogs, corn on the cob, knishes, and watermelon. A good block party on a city street drawing quite the crowd.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I made it a point to get photos with the girl firefighters and the hunky men too.
Perhaps the biggest attraction of the night, this ambulance wrapped in pride colors with a city skyline.
I think they should keep that all year round. I love that ambulance. They need to put a fire truck, a subway car, a bus.
Yes. And that wraps up our special today. I'd say we're ready to kick off Pride Sunday.
I think we are, and it's just moments away from happening. So we want to thank you all who obviously joined us here today on this Facebook Live. We hope you really enjoyed all these stories that we've been sharing with you all month long here on Pix 11. And if you can't make it to the Pride March, don't worry, we got you covered. You can check out our coverage tonight, tomorrow morning on the Pix 11 News, and always on the free Pix 11 News app. Hey, get out and enjoy. I'm Dan Manarino.
And I'm Betty Nguyen. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and happy Pride.